Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be the weekly review for the last trading week ending. Last trading week ending yesterday on the 10th of October. I have a lot to talk about. It's been a very interesting week um, where we're actually going to see whether or not the AuberStrategy withstood the test of time. Um, so we'll get right into it. So let's just pray. God, we just give you thanks and praise again for another opportunity to trade. We give you thanks and praise for a wonderful trading week and for helping us to be able to strategize, to review, and to look over the concepts. Pray that you'll be with anyone watching this video. May it be instrumental in helping them to improve in their process. And may we all succeed together. We thank you and we love you. Amen. All right, guys. This has been a very, very interesting trading week. And also, it was an opportunity to prove to you guys that the AuberStrategy works 100% once you follow the rules, and you had a lot of opportunity to make money last week as long as you are disciplined and you stick to the process. So I'll go over it in detail. And the good thing about it is that this was one of the few weeks where I made sure I telegraphed just about every move that I was doing, very transparent with what I was doing. So there can be no excuses for anyone saying that I made my calls after the move or whatever it is. So we'll get right into it. So as you guys will know and would have seen, I did my analysis last week, and these are, of course, my weekly boundaries and my daily boundaries. Okay. Now, the week started where I was actually in a buy from the Friday, based on the fact that the market made a higher low. I was in the buy towards the higher high. Okay. Now we saw that the market went up, it made that higher high and everything, which was an opportunity to take your profits. Now, remember, I mentioned to you, whenever you take a trade on your higher low, okay, there are two things that you're going to look for. Ultimately, the market is going to go up to produce that higher high. Now, in the event that you take the trade and it comes up and makes only a lower high, that is still an opportunity for you to take your profits, and you're going to wait for your next largest higher low. It's all about waiting, all about understanding what the market is doing. And also, you need to remember that any sales that the market makes is only a temporary retracement to create the largest higher low. The other thing that I also mention time and time again after every week is Mondays, Tuesdays, and sometimes Wednesdays are the days when the market sets up to actually make that major move of the week. So with that being said, let's look at the moves for last week. So first move was a buy, went up, it broke another all-time high. No questions about that. Okay? Absolutely no questions about that. Market retraced, came down, it made another higher low, okay? And then it's supposed to go up and make a higher high. However, if you remember in my comments, I did mention to you that if the market comes up and makes that lower high, then that's when you want to take your profit and wait for another higher low. So if you're looking at the 2-hour time frame here, notice I've marked the point. This was the complete move, higher lows to higher highs. However, when you looked at the 1-hour time frame, you'll notice that this move right here from the higher low came and produced a lower high. What does that mean? Opportunity for you to take your profits and now wait. So you take your profits here on that lower high, okay? You exit out of the trade and you wait for it to come and give you another higher low, which happened right here. Within a few hours of the lower high being created on Wednesday, you had another opportunity to actually come out here. Now, remember also, those of you who follow my posts on Instagram and also on my Telegram, you'll remember that I mentioned to you guys that this lower high point right here, you want to exit, you want to wait for the higher lows. And I also mentioned to you that because last week was that FOMC minutes day on Wednesday, you would see heavy consolidation within the markets, okay, which is exactly what we saw on that Wednesday. Because that FOMC report was coming out, everybody was anticipating what was going to happen as it related to interest rates and everything. So you saw that heavy consolidation happening here between these two lower high and higher low points, okay? So take your profit here. Look, market came down, it created another higher low. This is on the 1 hour. This is the consolidation that you saw on the one. You're seeing right now on the 1 hour. Looking at the 2 hour, it does not show those 2 points. Okay. This was a consolidation point that was picked up based on the 1 hour point. So you take your profit, wait for another higher low. See, it's still higher than the previous low. Look at what happened. Another opportunity for you to actually take this nice buy. Okay. All the way up to the higher high. All-time high was broken again. Okay. Now, we're back on the 2 hour. Notice price came back down. Here's another opportunity for you to actually enter your trade. Okay. So you take a trade here. Notice price came up. Now on your 1 hour time frame, okay, this registered that lower high that we spoke about. Another profit taking opportunity. Okay. Take your profits here. What you're going to do, you're going to wait for another higher low, which actually was produced right here at 5 a.m. on Friday morning. All right. Now remember, you're going to your all-time high again. And if you remember correctly, I mentioned to you, my target was actually made last week. By the time we got to Thursday, I made my target. I took this bonus trade right here, and I did mention before going to bed on Thursday night. On Thursday night, or it was early Friday morning, one of those days, I actually made a post and I said, listen, lower high, lower high, today being Friday and everything, not gonna pushing it. Taking my profits, I'm good, made my targets already for the week, made more than I was anticipating for the week. So this lower high here was a signal for me to actually get out of the markets. That lower high was in fact triggered by the 1 hour coming up and giving you another consolidation move. In addition to that, what you would have noticed is that on the 1 hour, it came back and it made another higher low point right here. Now, because I already came out on the lower high, I'll just draw this line here, this replay line here, so you can actually see exactly what's taking place. So let's replay, and we're going to go to here. Okay, so that's the lower high on my 1 hour time frame. Okay, but also look at my 2 hour. That was also a lower high on my 2 hour time frame. That point was when I actually sent the text, and I posted on my Instagram, and I also posted on my Telegram page that, guess what? You know what? It's at 9 in the night. I think it was after 9 o'clock before bedtime. I said, you know what? Listen, it's Friday tomorrow. Taking my profits, I'm out. Another lower high point. It's a consolidation point for me. I'm out of the markets. Okay? So it's good. Don't have to trade on Friday. You're good. You come out on your highs. You enter on your higher lows. You get out on your highs. Okay? But look at what was interesting. So after it did that, notice that after I'm out of the market, this is another opportunity for a buy, which took place on the 1 hour time frame. Okay? This is another opportunity for you to actually get into the trade. Now, if you took this move on Friday from this largest higher low, okay, which was a valid move, notice what it did on the 1 hour. It came up and it made a higher high on the 1 hour, okay, from this higher low. However, when you look at the 2 hour, that higher low move right here only went up and extended the lower high just below the last all-time high that was made. That is the consolidation point that was so clear. And if you were a bull, still expecting that this market was going to continue going up, after you have had so many opportunities to take your profits, you deserve every single thing that the market dished out to you on Friday. Okay? Like I mentioned to you guys, I've been saying it all the time. You take your trades on your higher lows. If the market goes up and gives you a consolidation point of a lower high, you take your trade and you take your profits and you wait for your next higher low. So see, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock on Thursday night, this was the signal. This is what I actually pointed out and I mentioned to you guys. Consolidation point, taking my profits, I'm waiting. Okay, not interested in going. It's Friday. I already made the target for the week. That's the time when you're going to wait. You should not be pushing a trade that long. You had several times to actually make your profits last week. Okay. Now, so let's say you missed this one at 9 o'clock. You came down, you got another higher low. Market went up. On the 1 hour time frame, it made a higher high. Why? Because the higher high was made by breaking this previous lower high that was made so close to the last all-time high. So it broke that and it gave you a higher high on your 1 hour. So in truth and fact, if you are trading based on your largest higher low, if you're using that concept on your largest higher low, the market did in fact make a higher high because you'd have taken this entry on your 1 hour. Even if you did not take the entry on your 1 hour, but you held the last higher low from your 2 hour and it came up, it gave you a lower high, you ignored it. It came back, it gave you a higher low on your 1 hour. You still stayed in the trade because as far as you're concerned, it's still valid. Remember, the 2 hour time frame already had put on a lower high from the previous night. So from this 1 hour higher low, which was created at 5 o'clock, early morning on Friday in London session, and you saw that it came up and gave you only another lower high, you had more than enough opportunities to take your profits. And I've always stressed to you guys, whenever you take your higher lows, you exit on your higher highs, or if the time frame gives you a lower high, you take your profits and you wait. So 2 opportunities for you to get that last and final trade of the week, getting out in profit. This was a lower high on the 1 hour and the 2 hour. This was the higher low on the 1 hour. This was a higher high on the 1 hour because it broke this previous lower high point on the 1 hour. However, it failed to break another all-time high right there on Friday morning. So it gave you a lower high on your 2 hour time frame. Now, if you did not take this exit right here and you continue to be greedy, you completely ignored everything that the AuberStrategy was talking about this week. Because remember, the rule is you get in on your largest higher low and you exit on your higher highs. Every single higher low was completed by a higher high. Every single higher low on your largest recorded time frame completed with a higher low. Sorry, with a higher high. Okay. The exception and the last exception of the week was the 2 hour that gave you a lower high time frame. So I'm sorry, a lower high exit point. So let's measure that last move of the day, of the week, sorry. So you go here, you got in here from Thursday, okay? This was the first opportunity for you to get out. That's 1,800 pips, okay? Market came down, went back to this point. You got another opportunity. If you stayed in the same trade, you got another opportunity to be out of the market at 2293 pips, 2,293 pips. The same higher low from right here. Now, if this was the 4th or the 5th or the 6th trade of the week, okay, and you still did not get out when the market gave you the signal, you deserve every single thing that happened to you that was negative after that. Because I don't know what else to say to you. Because the market was very clear as to its intentions last week. Okay. So for me, I took 5 trades last week. Okay. And the 5 trades that I took gained me 310% on my account. And I was happy with that. By the time I saw that on Thursday night, I was completely happy. I was done. I was like, okay, I'm good for the week. Okay. My target that I started off with the week last week was to make 100% on my account. Okay. I made 310% on my account by Thursday. So if I decided that I was still going to push the buys, I would be the silliest person on earth, because my target was not only achieved, it was broken by another 200%. So I'd be foolish and greedy to want to continue to trade on Friday when my target was already made from Thursday night. All right. So all of you, and I saw in the comments, a lot of people are saying, yes, all-time high, continue riding the wave. Yes, the market is 100% bullish. There's no doubt about that. However, like I've always said, you cannot buy from the highs. You have to wait for your largest higher low. Okay. Now let's talk about what happened on Friday. So after you got this opportunity to get out of the trade right here at 9 o'clock on Friday morning, okay, if you did not take it, your corner and your week, your month, everything was going to get ugly for you, because I can tell you, if you're holding buys that you took for this week, if you're holding buys that you took last week, if you're holding buys that you took 3 weeks prior to where we are, your corner just got dark. Now, if you had a buy that you got in here 3 weeks ago, you're still fine, because the market just came back to entry, basically. Okay. If you're holding a buy that you took on Wednesday night, your account probably is broken. And you have nobody to blame for that, because guess what? The market did make a higher low, and it went up and it made a higher high on the 1 hour, a lower high on the 2 hour. That was your consolidation signal. It gave you that twice. 2 hour registered a lower high twice. So you had 2 opportunities to take your profits. Okay. Now, with all of that selling that happened on Friday, okay, notice it took out the lows of the current week, it took out the lows of the previous week, and it took out the low of the previous week also. So it's 2 weeks so far that it took out the lows. It also took out the low of the previous week before. So 3 weeks worth of gains gone in a matter of hours. Okay. But understand this. Remember, I've said to you time and time and again, every single sell that the NASDAQ makes, it's a temporary retracement to form a higher low on your larger time frame. Okay. And what is common, you will see a breaking structure in smaller time frames, okay, in order to fulfill that higher low on your largest time frame or your larger time frames. Okay. So with all of this sell, taking out everything that's here, sellers, do not get cocky like the buyers last week, who got cocky into thinking that the market is somehow going to keep going higher lows to higher highs, higher lows to higher highs without a retracement. Okay. But remember, every single retracement is only to create a higher low on your larger time frame, which I'll get more into when we look at next week's analysis video. Okay. So if you look at this, this was a low that was formed on the 1 hour to 2 hours. As a matter of fact, every single time frame, all the way up to a 23-hour, created a new low. Okay, so let's look at the 23-hour time frame. There we go. That's a new low. That's a new low. Okay. However, always remember things in the context of your larger time frames. So let's look at the daily time frame. That new low is only a higher low on the daily time frame. So here's the exciting part about this, and I did mention it briefly in one of my posts yesterday. This is going to be one of the largest and the best bear traps I've seen in a while. Because if you continue to think that the market somehow is going to be in free fall for the rest of eternity and everything like that, okay, keep thinking. However, if you're in a sell, kudos to you. Remember, like I said to you, there's nothing wrong with sells. Absolutely nothing wrong with sells. The problem is the majority of you do not know when to sell. So I always recommend that you leave the sells alone and wait for your largest higher low. Now, for those of us who took profits on Thursday night, before all of this charade happened on Friday, kudos to you too, because you're following your plan 100%. You're waiting. So you had no reason to be in a buy right here because the price was at an all-time high. It gave you a series of higher lows, and it has been giving you a series of higher lows. Okay, but like I said, you have to be disciplined enough to know that when you take your higher lows, your exit point is your higher highs, your next all-time high, or worst case scenario, on your lower high, you take your profits and you wait. So you always take your profits on your highs, your higher highs, your all-time highs, and then you wait for your next higher low. So if the market, if you got in on the higher low, market was kind enough to give you the entry on the higher low, and it made a higher high, and you still decided to hold the trade because you're greedy, and the market dropped and came and made another higher low on the daily, but you were too greedy to get out at the last higher low and try to ride it back down to the next higher low, then that's all on you. So looking back to finish up this analysis for the week. So we're looking at the 1 hour. This is where we see the 1 hour is right now. Remember, a new low signals that the market wants to go down. That's what a new low symbolizes. The market does in fact want to go down. However, the trend is not complete until you get confirmation. So with all of that selling, and I think that was a nice sell. And I mean, let me tell you, if you held this trade from the top, this would be a very good sell. I think the complete sell was worth 12,000 pips. 12,000 pips. I think that's probably close to a record for the day in terms of daily movements. That was a nice sell. However, if you took the sell, kudos to you. Just don't think that it's going to be long-term. It's going to be sustainable. Be careful and understand that you're waiting for your largest higher low, which we already seen signal on your daily time frame. The week has nothing. Week did not put on anything at all, but the daily actually signaled that higher low. Just remember this, as fast as this came down, it can go back up. Okay? There's no trend without a confirmation. Okay? So just be clear and understand this, that the market hit a retracement point last week. That retracement point only went and gave you a higher low on your larger time frames. So be careful of that. Just like how the buyers needed to understand that you get out on your higher highs after you enter on your higher lows, sellers also need to understand that you exit on your higher lows if you're coming from your higher highs. All right. So I took a little extra time because I wanted to actually point out and to, I know some people are going to have a lot of questions. A lot of people are confused. Like, what the hell happened? I was in such good profit. What happened? What happened to you was that you got overconfident and you missed key indicators that the market gave. And that is why I've always mentioned to you guys, when you are learning a strategy, do it on a demo account. Because when you do on a demo account, it gives you an opportunity for what happened on Friday to some of you. So you can be able to go back and evaluate and see what happened without losing your real money. Because a lot of people, I can tell you, are crying right now because of what happened to them on Friday afternoon. And the pointers were there and told you, gave you 2 opportunities to get out of the trade, and you did not. Okay? And like I said, I told you all before, I was leaving Friday alone. Profits were secured, profit was made. I'm done for the week. On Thursday, I'm done. Practice discipline. You have to be consistent. And I've been preaching last week. I've been saying to you guys, here's the thing about success in trading. You find one thing that works 100% of the time. You do that one thing 100% of the time, and you're guaranteed to be successful 100% of the times. So, in my case, I realized that the higher lows, the higher highs works every single time. So, if I get in on a higher low, exit on my higher high, I'm done. What am I doing next? Waiting for another higher low. Doesn't matter how long it takes, I'm waiting for another higher low. Then I'm going to be taking that higher low and I'm going to be buying to the next higher high. And just repeat the process. You know that the market returns to a higher high. Every single high that the market makes will get broken. No difference with this last all-time high that was made on Thursday. It will get broken. The question is, are you patient enough to wait for the correct higher low? If not, this is going to happen to you. Because if you bought anywhere here, you're still at a high. You cannot buy from a high. You have to wait for your largest higher low. So in your evaluation of what transpired this week, please go back and understand, zoom out and look at your larger time frame. What did I miss? You missed the fact that you were taking higher lows on time frames, although they were the largest time frames at the time. There were still time frames larger than the 1 hour and the 2 hour that still needed to make a higher low. Time frames such as the 23-hour and the daily time frame that needed to make a higher low. And that's exactly what you got on Friday. So the market didn't do anything different than it did the week before. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at what happened on the previous week, you would have noticed that the market did the same thing. So it bought for the beginning portion of the week, coming up towards bought for the first day of the week, came up, it made that high, okay? Then it fell, large drop right here on Tuesday, made that higher low, and then it bought for the rest of the week. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this was last week I was looking at. My apologies. Going back to last week. So it bought for the beginning portion of the week. You came, you got your higher high. And as soon as you got your higher high on Friday, boom, drop on Friday. Came, it made a new low, but guess what? It bought from here and it continued going back on the highs. So this is interesting stuff because the market has now opened up its range. The market is actually going to be moving at an astronomical pace towards the end of the year. And like I said, only the people who are patient and the people who trade the trend are going to reap the benefits right now. People like to talk about manipulation in the markets. No, it's not manipulation. The signs are always there, but people choose to ignore the signs because of their own biases and not understanding that market structure will always be maintained. What happened on Friday? This was a breaking structure. It's a temporary breaking structure. It has not been confirmed. So you do not have a bear market as some people, are suggesting. No, that's not a bear market. That's just a very hard retracement. And it was a necessary retracement because of all the higher lows that have been created, and all that selling that has been created only created a higher low on the larger time frames. All right. So, like I said, I took a lot to explain all of this so that you could see what happened. Those of you who actually lost money yesterday, I'm sorry for you. But again, like I said, if you ignore the pointers and ignore elements of the strategy, just by getting caught up in your emotions and getting caught up in a market that is 100% bullish, you will get these days. Okay? So regroup, come again. If you're trading a demo account and that happened to you, okay, it's easy for you to brush that off. But if you're trading a live account when you had no business trading a live account because you did not understand what the market is going to be doing and you did not understand the key points when you're supposed to be out and to be waiting, then I'm sorry for you. That's all on you. Nobody to blame. Just go back, regroup, come back again. So with that being said, that is the video for this week. The next video that I'm going to be posting later on is going to be the analysis for the upcoming week and how I plan to trade for the next 5 days into the next week. That's going to be the third week of October. Thank you again, guys, for watching. Thank you again, God, for your blessing and for your goodness. Please be with us as we continue to trade. Thank you for all of those who were successful last week and continue to be consistent. Please bless us and keep us. Please help those who are lacking the patience to get the patience that they need in order to wait for the correct setups and to exit at the right time. We thank you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.